didn't fall
The other,
all the way because,
the
as I
other
said,
guy,
the backpack was
like the other guy
it
wasn't
was
strong
stuck there,
enough.
kind of hanging.
The other guy
there.
wasn't strong enough to get him out
He
of
was
there.
not strong enough.
There was no way
Imagine
because he
this-
was wedged.
Okay, I'm sorry, but as a climber, that's a crazy, crazy story.
Honey, it's crazy, but it's true.
They were professional climbers.
To not have had the gear to get the guy up.
I mean, you'd have to have a winch to get the guy out of there. He's wedged in a crevasse, which goes down like this, and he couldn't get himself out, and the other guy couldn't
Neither
pull him
up
out.
nor down.
And he's way down there. I don't know if he could even see him, but at any rate, he was going to come out.
You know, that story, I mean, I'm starting to get worried.
Yeah, we don't like your...
No.
We don't like...
To need to have that skill. So we're just learning how to tie a butterfly knot and how to rope up together in a 3-person team with we've done 36 feet between each people, how to do a, what do you call those, how we coil the rope, alpine
mountaineer's coil.
Mountaineer's coil, and then the theory behind it, how we're clipped in, and the very, very basics or the beginnings of what happens when one of your team goes down a crevasse.
We're going to bring it down so that you have everything, including the line that's attaching you to your harness, underneath. So you want the line that's attached to your harness to go underneath, and we're going to tie right here, but we're going to tie on the right side of that line. So then what we're going to do is just come up, around, and just do an overhand on your coils there.
Where'd you fall, Will?
So I came up around.
And just use that bite to do an overhand knot.
Right. So like that. So like that.
Let's see. So just using that bite, do a overhand on the bite itself. So let's see. We're coming here.
Yep.
We want it. This is the bite, and you're doing an overhand.
Oh, I see. Right.
On the bite itself.
Right.
There. Right. Excellent. And in this tail, we want to just tie like a fisherman's or some little knot against that, just so that this isn't going to come undone.
Oh.
And then we have our bite here that's hanging down. I'm going to go ahead and put that into a non-locking, or any sort of beaner.
Oh, okay, you want it on here, okay.
Right, just, it's gonna keep this stationary, so this isn't moving around. Right now, I can take this coil off and drop it. These coils are now isolated, they're gonna stay there, they're not gonna come undone. I don't really need to worry about them. Another coil,
I was wondering about that.
because this is, it's biting all right, but it's not biting quite as well as a shorter, narrower cord would. And you have the length to easily put another coil in. So I think we can do everything we want right over there off of that cornice. And the hill right next to it looks like it'll be great for self-resting. And that gives us more time to practice rather than hike. If there's only one person trying to perform the rescue, setting up the anchor and the pulley system, things get much more complicated. The two systems are either the person in the crevasse can use their pressix lines and self-rescue, get themselves out once an anchor has been established. The other system is if the person in the crevasse is not capable of self-rescuing because they either have a broken ankle or are in some way incapacitated, they're unconscious, you can't communicate with them, something like that, then you need to set up a pulley system to hoist them out. So we're going to do a self-rescue first, and then we'll follow that up with the pulley system. And we're going to set up the anchor a couple of times. So we'll do it just quickly so that we can practice with our press-x, and we'll do it more complexly later. Ideal, sometimes you generally want to be about 10 degrees off of 90. So here, it's not the most important thing, especially on a flat slope. On a steep slope, it actually becomes fairly important. So 10, if the slope's steep like this, there's my 90 degrees. I want to be 10 degrees proud, 10 or 15 degrees proud of that 90. Let's pretend somebody's down there. I'm going to be like this in the snow, holding them up. And they're going to have a lot of weight on me. So one of you two, hopefully, is still up here. So you can come next to me and pound in this picket and set this anchor. And you want to get the anchor in as deep as possible. Now, we're going to set another one. Ideally, a little bit higher and a little bit off to the side. If you set them both at the same angle or the same height, there's a possibility you could get a fracture or something. The more you have them spaced out in 2 dimensions, the better it's going to be.
Now you said something about having your sling or your quick draw already attached to your picket, so you would normally travel with that all ready to go.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing you don't want is you don't want this to be at an upwards angle, because then a load can pull. You've got some upward force. You never want any upward force, so sometimes you're gonna dig out around here and make a little channel for your anchor. Put a twist in one of those lines. Arguably an even better way is to just tie a knot right here. And that makes it so that it's even more static and stable. I'm going to set my anchor there. And then I'm going to take a locking carabiner. This piece right here that has teeth on it, which all point in one direction, right? So if my finger is a rope, I can put my finger through this way. But if I come back this way, all of those teeth are going to dig into the rope. And the rope's only going to be able to go through the pulley.
So downhill should be that way, uphill should be this way.
Exactly. Yeah. You have the picture here. That's the direction of rotation.
And so when you're putting it on the rope, you open it, rope goes in like that, you close it, and stick it on your beaner.
Right. So we're going to make it so that this rope is going down the hill. And I'm supporting this climber. I have this anchor here built. I'm going to take the micro tracks. I'm going to make sure that I'm putting it in the right way. So I don't want, the person's falling this way. So I don't want the rope to be able to slide this way. So as soon as I'm comfortable with that, I'm going to slide it in. And I am going to put it back onto the carabiner. There. Now the person's weight is still on me. So we've got slack in this system, and I'm up here holding the person like that. I can slowly let myself down, lower myself down, slowly taking the weight off and putting it onto these two.
Now, if you're letting yourself down, you are getting closer to the danger zone. What about just pulling up the slack on that rope?
you can't actually pull up the slack because the rope is actually in tension already. You have to let yourself down. Because if... Here.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I
Sorry.
see. I got you. Yeah.
This is the situation, right? This rope is completely tight. I can't pull this up. What I can do is I can push this down, but the weight's still on me. I'm going to have to let myself go, and then it's going to lock onto this system.
All right.
If you want, you can even do a backup by putting a pressix from here onto here. The reason this Microtrax is so nice is it basically is a pulley and a pressix all in one. So now the person in the crevasse, their weight is on this anchor. To make it even safer, what I would do is, do you know how to tie a clove hitch?
No.
So a clove hitch is the easiest knot for securing a rope. If a climber wants to attach themselves to an anchor, you do 1 loop, 2 loop, with the rope going from the back and from the front. Correct. And you just put them over each other. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip those 2 loops into here. This way, now even if my Microtrax fails, this knot is actually good enough to totally hold that climber.
Right.
This is an anchor knot. So now I have it backed up. Now my climber who's down there can use their pressix cords to climb up. So when you're pressixing, you're down in there. You have 1 pressix here for your chest. The other pressix you have tangled up. You're going to untangle it. Right now all your weight's on the rope and on the anchor, going straight to your harness.
Oh, now I'm starting to see why you have your pressix on a separate carabiner.
Right.
Because you might not be able to, you'll be too much tension to
Too
get it
tight.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, you would have no choice, no way of really undoing. You'd have to undo the carabiner that is securing you, because that carabiner is the only thing holding you onto the rope, and having to undo that carabiner would really be risky. So you don't want to do that. Feet into your foot pressix, like that, and like that. And you're going to stand up on your foot pressix, and then you're going to slide your chest pressix up. Let your chest pressix lock. Put your weight, sit down in your harness. Put all your weight on the chest pressix. Then you're going to slide your foot pressix up. And it's just going to be one, followed by the other, followed by the other, followed by the other. So let's play with that a little bit and just practice going down here and climbing back up the rope with pressix. And then we'll do it with backpacks on, which changes things a little bit. There you go. You're going to want this to be able to slide up a little bit.
This is going to be...
There you go. Yeah, like that. And now you can give yourself some slack in there. There you go.
As I can.
And
Lean back.
Lean back. There it is. Yep. You got it. You know, you're not going to be this deep in a crevasse. When you're stopping yourself, you want ice axe in across your chest and all of your body weight digging this spike in. What you don't want is to have this bottom spike catch the snow, because if you're sliding down and the bottom spike catches the snow, then ploop, you've lost it and you're gonna have a terrible time regaining control. So you want a hand low and a hand high. The low hand you want to be controlling, making sure your spike doesn't dig in. The high hand and all of your body weight you want pushing into the head of the ice axe. And as you're sliding, you don't want to just dig your feet in, especially if you're on a steep slope. Catch crampon tips and they stick, but you still have a ton of momentum. So what's going to happen is you're going to go head over heels and you're going to start into a ragdoll.
So you don't want to dig your feet in?
What you want to do is kick your feet. Once you have control with your ice axe, once you feel like your ice axe is where it needs to be, you're going down and then you're kick. Almost lifting your butt off the ground. But you don't want to just plant your feet, especially with crampons on steep terrain. It's kicking. Let's do it once without crampons and once with crampons. Just otherwise you're gonna end up like me. It's good to try once or twice without them, and then we'll introduce the crampons. And just be aware the first couple of times. See if you do something like that, because that can actually be a pretty significant wound, especially if your crampons are really sharp.
Have you taken some really scary falls?
Yeah. All right. I'm sliding down the hill, feet first. I have my axe like this. I have two choices. I can roll to my left, or I can roll to my right. If I roll to my left, the bottom of my ice axe, the spike, is gonna hit the snow, it's gonna dig in, and it's gonna shoot up. And I just lost control. And that's terrible. You want to roll towards the head of your ice axe to the right and get the head in. So always roll towards the head, not towards the tail. The longer it is, the more likely you are to have this tail get caught.
But it's also got to be long enough that you can comfortably use it to.
Right, but then you're also on steep terrain.
All right.
You know, when you're using your ice axe, it's because you're on steep terrain where you're going to need to self-rest. So really, you're up here. More modern ice axes are, this is, I think, 66 centimeters. If I were to get a new axe, it would probably be 55 centimeters. It makes self-resting that much easier.
I'm actually kind of scared.
It's super soft snow, and realistically, you're gonna jump off and you're just gonna stop.
You jumped?
I did. It didn't work. I just stopped.
Okay. Ah! Downhill!
There you go.
You got the technique.
Alright, that wasn't as scary as I thought it would be.
No. Nice. And using that to
Swiveling.
spin yourself around. You got it. Spin, 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 spin. Kick, 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 kick. You got it, Simon. Come on. Yes, yes, nice, nice. Kick. No broken necks in this terrain. The snow's way too soft.
Going down. But then it's stab and roll into it.
Yep. So, here is the rope going to our fallen climber. It comes up to our anchor, goes through pulley number 1, which in this case is a microtrax. Microtrax also has a built-in progress capture. If we did not have a built-in progress capture, what we would do is set up a pressix from our anchor to the line that goes to our fallen climber, to this line.
And we could do that anyways just for a backup?
You absolutely could, yes. Then after going through our microtraction, we come down here to a second pressix, which is as close to the edge of the crevasse as we're willing to get. Attached to that pressix, I have another pulley. My rope comes through this pulley and then back up here to a third pulley attached to my anchor. This is what's called a Z pulley system and is a simple 3-to-1.
If I had 2 more pulleys, just add one there, and
Yeah.
And your anchor is on a locking beaner.
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff in here that's moving, so I like that to be a locking beaner.
And then that's connected to 2
Equalized anchors.
equalized anchors that are offset using pickets. Offset so that there's not a fracture that could potentially happen. And at 10 degrees
Proud of the slope.
proud of the slope. Which, what does that mean again?
If you have a slope here, imagine a 90-degree, a perpendicular snow anchor. Go 10 degrees past perpendicular.
Okay. Thank
Or
you.
15. I guess, I mean, the 5 degrees difference could be hard to tell, but shoot for a 15-degree difference from the slope. Well, notice, as I'm pulling, our micro traction pulley right there is actually capturing the progress, so that when I let go, I don't lose anything. If I had a pressix here, running to this cord, when I let go, I would lose a little bit of rope, a little bit of slack. I would have to wait until the pressix actually grabs, seizes, and jams itself into the pulley.
And if you did have a pressix there, would you need one of your partners to make sure that the rope is feeding through it cleanly when you're pulling the climber up?
No, if it's a pressix, I mean, this is a pretty narrow pulley, so the pressix will kind of just butt into the end of that, and I haven't actually had any trouble with the pressix getting jammed into the pulley. I'm sure it could happen, so it's not a bad idea. The third climber is helping me lift all of this weight out, because we could have a 200-pound climber down there with 100 pounds of gear. Pulling 300 pounds at a 3-to-1, even with this mechanical advantage, when you account for all the friction, is still a lot of work. We're going to learn how to do a 6-to-1.
Oh, 6-to-1.
Just shortly.
So you can't, there's 4-to-1 doesn't exist.
You can make a 4-to-1. You can do
Okay.
any pulley system.
you just keep adding pulleys at the 2 junctures.
Right,
And
but
keep-
there's an even better way to make a 6-to-1.
All right.
Where we're just adding a 2-to-1 onto the 3-to-1, and they multiply together. And that gives you a huge mechanical advantage. So that's my favorite, although it requires a couple extra pieces of gear. A tough time, and you don't have all the gear. What I've seen people do is just a simple reroute. And then tie this onto their harness with a clove hitch.
And then walk.
And with crampons and ice axe, crawl up the hill, pulling your climber out.
Simon and I are going to try and set up a Z-pulley system with our fallen climber down the crevasse. Simon, how are you feeling?
Oh, parts of me are doing okay.
Okay, ready? Learned an absolute ton today. Feel really lucky to have been able to go out with these 2 guys. Great practice. Now I just need to do a lot more of it. And become a better skier.
Well, having walked half a mile with a sled, I think you need to rethink that whole sled thing for Alaska.
I'd rather have it on a sled than on my back.